Jim, first of all, thank you for taking the time. This is such a topical kind of time with what went on, in particular in the Cincinnati Kansas City game. Help those of us who didn't quite understand what was going on with the do over play.
Well, it was really a strange situation. We're not supposed to have do-overs in the National Football League, but basically what had happened was it was a second down pass play that was incomplete, and when they reset the ball for third down, they got ready to run the play, and the play clock was running down, and then it got down inside of 15 seconds, got down inside of 10 seconds, and the line of scrimmage official must have gotten something from upstairs, probably from the replay official or from the New York office that said, hey, we've got to readjust the ball. We're off a half a yard. No idea why they would do that, but he stopped the game clock. He stopped the clock at that time, and he put the ball, made it a half a yard adjustment. Had no effect at all on the play, and why they did it is still surprising. So then what happens is they went through the procedure, and Ron Torbert, the referee, explained what happened, and he said, we are going to reset the play clock, and the clock will start on my ready. Well, we had an incompleted pass, so the clock should have started on the snap. Well, no one picked it up. 7 officials on the field, 7 alternate officials on the sideline, and none of them picked it up. No one made the adjustment. So they got ready. They snapped. They got ready to snap the ball. The clock is running, and the deep official, who felt that the clock should have been stopped at that point, started to run in and stop the play. Well, no one really saw him. They ran the play. It was an incompleted pass. He tried to get off the field, but they felt that we need to replay the down because there's an official that was out of position. It had no effect on the game. They threw an incompleted pass. It should have gone to fourth down. They gave him the opportunity. So it was one of those situations that it was very poorly handled. I don't know why they moved the ball. I don't know why they replayed it, but it was confusing. It was embarrassing, and it's something that should not have happened.
We don't get a chance to have officials or former officials on very often. So I'm going to ask some dumb stuff here, but I want to get your reaction to a little bit of it. One of the things I don't understand right now that is now legal in both college and pro football is this thing where the lineman can get behind a ball carrier and push. It seems to me it's doing a real disservice to officiating.
Well, it is, and it's something that's just kind of taken a step forward recently. Basically the rule says that there's a penalty for helping the runner, but helping the runner means you grab him, you carry him, you lift him, you pull him. But there's nothing that says about pushing him, and then it becomes, hey, who's the strongest? It's kind of like a rugby match. But the rule allows them to kind of push forward. As long as his progress is moving forward, they're going to let it go. As long as that offensive man doesn't get in front of the runner, grab him by the uniform, grab him in some manner, and pull him into the end zone and pull him forward, then there's not a penalty on that play.
A couple of weeks ago, I had a chance to see some old film footage of part of the game where Montana hits Dwight Clark with the catch. And one of the things that really struck me was that we have got so much more hand fighting and contact going on. Have we just simply gotten to a point where officials are having to make the call based on degree of contact as opposed to in the old days contact?
That's a great point. The game has changed so much. I think the biggest thing is the players are so much better. The defensive backs are so physical, the size, etc. When I was up in the league office, we had a lot of issues because the the Patriots basically manhandled the Indianapolis Colts one year, and they had to do something about illegal contact. They wanted to give the receivers an opportunity to work themselves downfield without being accosted getting off the line of scrimmage. So now they're saying, hey, at 5 yards, you got to let him go and let him make his move. There's an awful lot of hand fighting that goes on. There's a lot of grabbing. As an official, the better officials can handle these situations by making the call from the gut. You watch the play. Does the contact have an effect on the outcome of the play? Is one player getting an advantage? And it all comes down to advantage and disadvantage. Players are going to bang and grab and shove. If a player gets an advantage by grabbing and shoving, that's when you got to throw the flag. So it's changed a lot over the years. Back when Montana and Dwight Clark were playing, there was a lot of banging. It was kind of survival of the fittest. Now, basically, there are rules in place that the official can fall back on, but it still comes down to his guts. Can he make that call if he feels that is one player getting an advantage over the other player?
Jim, when I first got into play-by-play broadcasting and you're courtside in basketball, one of the things I used to like was that the John Clockertys and the Don Fergusons would see something that was getting out of hand, and they would just simply stop the game, bring everybody in, and say, look, we're not going to have any more of this crap. Do officials, whether it's football, basketball, or whatever, need to do more of that?
You mentioned a couple of basketball officials that I thought were the best at their trade. John Clockerty. I mean, I would watch him on a game and know that the game, was under control. Those types of officials, you need to have communication out on the field. The officials have got to be able to talk to the players. There's a lot of talk that goes on, whether it's especially in the National Football League, where there's a lot of talk on the interior line. Players talk, and you've got to be able to get in there and talk with them. But you don't talk them down. You don't tell them to shut up. You just kind of work with them because they've got their own little games going on in there. When they start going over the edge, that's when you can kind of control it. But the good officials are the ones that can go in there and they can get into a situation and they can calm a situation down with communication. I think they're losing a lot of that right now. They're a little bit too robotic out there. They're not wanting to communicate enough with the players. Stop the game and pull the teams together and tell them, hey, we're not putting up with this anymore. And if we do, there's going to be consequences. I don't know if they do that enough. I don't know if they're taught enough. They're taught to do that enough now.
Jim, let me ask you this. Obviously, a targeting has come into the game, and honestly, it's a big part of the game now. And you can't watch a football game almost without that being called. What are your thoughts on that? Do you feel like they should maybe move to a basketball model where you almost have a flagrant one, flagrant two? One's malicious, a guy just totally it's really obvious, and another, it just feels like it's so hard, especially with these running backs too, now how low they can get. It's you kind of put the defense then in a compromised position. I guess what are your thoughts on how you'd like to see targeting called?
Well, having been involved in football for a long time, and you see so many injuries out there, and then now the long-term effects of head injuries. We really, we're only touching the surface of what's really going on out there. They've tried to clean it up. It's a vicious game played by vicious, tough individuals. They've got to take the helmet out of it. They've got to take the crown of the helmet out of it. There's going to be natural contact with helmet to helmet during the game. And I understand that. And that's why they have these helmets on. But when helmets hit side to side, you've got to let those guys play. But when somebody comes in and lowers his helmet and tries to hit, from the crown up and get up there, he's trying to punish his opponent. And that's what you've got to be careful of. The other problem that you run into, as you said, should there be different degrees of it? at some point, we got to let them play football. And at some point, they've got to understand that if they do this, then these are the consequences. But what happens too often is, that running back is running. Now he lowers his head and he initiates the contact, and they're calling it on the defensive player. Is that fair? I don't think it is. But who initiates the contact? Now you're putting an awful lot of pressure on the officials to make that call, and that's where you need to have some kind of a replay option to take a look at that, to see who's initiating that and initiating that helmet to helmet. Now, again, and I'm saying helmet to helmet shouldn't be a foul unless they lead with the crown and try to injure the opponent.
Yeah, let's stay just real quick on the topic of injury. I'm sure that you were watching or definitely are well aware of everything that went on with DeMar Hamlin and that situation. What went through your head when you were watching that, or when you heard about that as an official? What that might be like for an official, and also, I mean, you had a long career doing this. Did you have anything remotely close to that experience, and what was that like?
Well, that's interesting, Michael. I was watching the game, and I got this feeling in my gut. I was refereeing officiating a game in Giant Stadium between the New York Jets, and Dennis Bird. He got hit, went down, and was paralyzed on the field. As I stood over him from my position before anybody came out, I could still see the look in his eyes, and he couldn't move. He was completely paralyzed. They started working on him, and fortunately, they did some great things at that time. And I was on the field about 4 years later when he, with the assistance of crutches, he was able to walk back on the field. And it brought me back to that time when I saw the situation in Cincinnati. And I'll tell you, it was just, it scares you when you see situations like that, and you see these games going on, and the hits. Unless you've been on the field, you don't realize the intensity of these games. You don't realize how physical these individuals are, and it just amazes me that they get through games, the way they do.
Last one for you. I played wide receiver in college. Now, we were a flexbone team, so we didn't throw the ball very much. But as a wide receiver, the game also is that's a rule that has changed of what is a catch. And I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan from Arlington, Texas. So the Des Bryant catch or no catch.
It was somebody was saying that to me the other day. I was at somewhere and he was a Dallas Cowboy, and he said, "What about that catch?" I said, "It was 100 years ago, but it's still not a catch."
Well, help me understand it. I mean, I feel like now I can watch a game, and honestly, I guess I'm so backwards with the rules now. I don't even know what a catch is. What do you think? How should that be officiated?
I think it should be officiated with your gut. It's kind of funny that so many things happen. When I was up in the league office, we used to have to make decisions on things like that. And, the way we would discuss it up there is we'd say, how about the 50 guys in the bar? Do they think it's a catch or not a catch? And if they think it's a catch, how can the 5 or 6 of us up in New York say it's not a catch? Sometimes you just got to do let your eyes tell you what's going on out there, and you make the decision from that point. But it still comes down to they've tried to make it easy. They missed a big one in the San Francisco Eagles game the other day.
Devontae Smith.
And that really frustrated me because of the fact they have the technology to fix that immediately. They had the shot right away. I don't know why replay didn't come down and say that ball was on the ground. But again, they didn't, and Shanahan didn't challenge. So, did it make a difference in the game? Who knows, really? But, just don't let the ball hit the ground. Get a hold on to the ball when you make the catch, and show me that you made the catch.
Jim, this has been great for us. As I said earlier, we don't get the chance to talk to officials or former officials very often. So a double thank you for taking the time to be with us.
My pleasure, guys. Anytime. I'd love to talk with you, and hopefully we can do this again sometime.